Let's jump in. Let's have a conversation. Whoa, there he is again. Let's have a conversation. All right. So, what do practice owners want as it relates to intakes? Well, they want a simple intake or sales system to close more client leads for their practice. Well, the problem is that many practices lack a clear system to capture, qualify, and close prospective clients. Furthermore, back in the day, it's like paper and pencil were how clients were scheduled, right? That's like for the last 50 years. And then the last 10 years or so, there's kind of been this reemergent, a lot of practices started using Google Sheets and Google Docs, and that really has replaced paper and pencil. And then, especially with private practices, many have moved to Google Sheets, but that quickly breaks down because if you're receiving more than like 10 client leads a week, that sheet starts to fill up, especially if you're a solo practitioner or even if you're a group practice and you have a part-time intake coordinator, that starts to fill up. Well, my wife, Susan, she has a practice here in Hinsdale, and we had a Google sheet keeping track of all the intakes that were coming in. At one point, we had 120 prospective clients on there lined up. It was like 120 person wait list. And she was telling me, Brent, where clients are starting to fall through the cracks, like they're just being forgotten about. There's confusion among the intake team on who they should be prioritizing. How to discern who's in the queue and who's coming up next. And so she told me, you need to come up with a solution for this. So what I did is, this is where many of you might know about TheraSaaS, but that's where a couple years ago, I was able to find a technology platform that I was able to build upon a bit and create something, TheraSaaS, to kind of manage all these clients that were coming in so we can move away from the Google Sheet. So this is a CRM. Since then, there's been more CRMs coming out. CRMs is a client relationship management tool, and it's just an easier and smoother way to capture, qualify leads and capture them, qualify them, and just organize everything. But at the end of the day, a CRM like TheraSaaS is just a tool in your intake system. And I think Donald Miller helps us out here as he thinks about a business. He likens it to an airplane. And he says, imagine your business like an airplane, and your right engine is your marketing, and your left engine is your sales. And you need both of those working at the same time in order to take off safely, in order to fly smoothly. You need both of those working. And, there's a lot of practices spend a lot of money and time focusing on the marketing, on the right engine, right? So that's where, for example, my webinar on sales funnels, right? That's really around your marketing. So how are you building trust with potential client leads and getting them into your funnel and building your brand? And by the way, I just gave a talk a couple months ago at Meet You in Kentucky conference. And so I have that up on YouTube. You can go watch it for free. You can go subscribe to the channel because I'm posting these types of talks up there too. But a lot of times practice owners don't spend a lot of time on that sales and everything. So once they are ready to commit and they want to schedule an appointment or find out more through a consultation call, a lot of times they don't have practice owners, intake coordinators. They don't really have an easy system to be able to move people through that process into scheduling that appointment and becoming a paying client. So if you don't have that marketing's the left engine, right? If they don't have the left engine of sales, then your business is not flying smoothly, and you're losing revenue on that, and clients are falling through the cracks. And so today is really a little bit about some sales training as it deals with closing clients. So I'm going to share a simple system that I've created, along with my wife as well. I should say that she's always the guinea pig for new things. And if you stay to the end, I'm going to give you a discount on TheraSaaS. Part of this talk is based on this free PDF that I created on how to turn calls into clients. And I'll give you an access to that. And then also just want to let you know about the YouTube channel. Many of you know the origin story but 7 years ago, just by reminder, my wife came home. She was getting her hours, her pre-licensed hours. And she said, Brent, when I'm fully licensed, I want to start my own practice. I want to be private pay and just focus on kids. And so at that time, my wife was 6 months pregnant with our son. We had twin girls who are 2. So that meant we had 3 kids under the age of 3. I didn't have a marketing degree because she said, Brent, I want you to do the marketing and the branding for us. I didn't have any experience of that. I've never started a business before. We didn't have the money to pay someone to create a website. So I had to learn how to build websites. We were living in Chicagoland, and like Michelle, living in Chicagoland, you kind of need 2 incomes to really make it work. And we wanted to be close to family. And we were starting this business from absolute scratch, from the ground up. So I went on a journey of learning how to build websites, SEO, Google Ads, video, audio, all the things. And so that's what I obsessed about until we launched Kid Matters Counseling. So that's what we look like a few months ago. And today, Kid Matters Counseling's over 12 clinicians. Susan just hired 4 more. It's 100% private pay, over $1 million in revenue, and she has over 3,300 email subscribers. And part of the success of that is not just really good marketing, but we've dialed in our intake system for Kid Matters as well. And since then, to brand your practice, I've gone on to help launch and scale up over 12 private practices across the country. All right, a little bit more about me, full stack marketer, certified guide, story brand guide. And my mission really is to help practice owners, 10,000 practice owners launch, grow, or scale their private practice by the end of 2030. Helping them do those things through education and the different softwares and services that I offer. All right. So a little bit about me. Here's the plan for the day. We're going to walk through step 1. We're going to talk about how to capture client leads. And then step 2, how to qualify those client leads. And then step 3, we're going to talk about how to qualify client leads. And then step 3 is how to close those client leads. All right. That is the plan. So let's jump in. All right. So I want you to think about your own website, because that's how most clients come to you. I want you to think about your own website and ask the question, is it clear and easy for client leads to take action on my website? Is it clear and is it easy for them to take action on your website? Most websites do not have a clear and easy call to action. And I'll show you some examples in a minute. A lot of times it could be there's no call to action, or the call to action is confusing. So it might say, learn more or contact us. And why is that not clear? Well, your call to action on your website should be, what is that next step you want a prospective client to take? You want to give them something to accept or reject. So maybe is that call today? Is it book now, or schedule free consult, or schedule an appointment? Like, what is that next step? And make that really clear. And so just by way of example, I searched Psychology Today for practices in my area. These were just kind of randomly picked websites. And, the websites I'm going to show you, like, no hate, no shame, right? Towards the websites or towards the practice owners or anything. But I just wanted to show you some real life examples of websites and kind of do a little critique. So as you're thinking about how you might be able to improve yours, this is really the first step in trying to understand how to capture client leads, is pointing the direction that they need to go. What's that first step? All right. So Dr. Brian Veer here, you'll see that there is no, I guess, call or text here 24/7. That is maybe a call to action there, but there's no clear button, and there's no clear, easy way to say, what's that next step? There is this really great button here, but it says States Map, and that goes to I was like, well, that's interesting. I've never seen a call to action button like that, and that goes to the Psych Pack to kind of show the different states that he's in. So that's one example. Here's another one in Hinsdale here. So Dr. Bill, he's been around for a long time, but no clear call to action, except there's this little dark button that says contact here. Let's take another one. Julie here, there's a contact button right here. So at least there are buttons. And then here's another one. I actually like this. Like one just from branding. I love the picture. I don't know who runs like that, but it's showing what like helping men to thrive. Like, all right, this is some thriving bros there. So I like the simple, clear message, but there really isn't a clear call to action. Like, how do I get started with counseling? And Margot's a good friend. She helped Susan a lot in getting started, her practice started. Beautiful website, but not a real clear call to action, how to get started. This is her homepage. And even if you say work with Margot, and I clicked on these here, and those don't link anywhere. Um, Again, it just starts with a simple call to what do you want the person, the client lead to do? What's that next step? Here, I think this is helpful here in Hensel Spectrum Behavioral Health, book online. So that's clear. And it's a big, bold button, stands out a couple different ways. So I think that's helpful. Clear, it stands out. Here's a website that I've developed, Silver River, and it's a button that stands out from the rest of the colors, like schedule an appointment, right? Click here, start there. All right, so I do see Joshua has a question. What do you think about landing page, landing page? Um, I Here's what I think about landing. Every single page on your website should be a landing page. Should have a clear call to action, answer questions that your potential client has. You know, gives them a simple plan on how to get started. So unless you have a more specific question, people like to think I need to build a landing page for this. Well, really, every single page on your website should be like a landing page, right? You are selling your services. So I don't know if that answers your question, but there should be a call to action. Should be testimonials on every single page if you can. Um, that's another webinar that I might have done in the past. So you have to go check my YouTube channel. All right, let's jump into, but keep the questions coming. I'll jump in and answer them. Number two, so we're still talking about how to capture clients. So let's ask this. How are you directing client leads to take action on your website? So let's jump here. Let me get to my notes here. All right, so is this a phone call or is this a form? These are like the two primary ways, right? So if it's a phone call, make sure that's really clear. Do you have an answering service? Right. Again, this is the part of the sales process. Do you have an answering service? Is someone available to take a phone call right away? Is the intake team available during those hours to answer those phones and get them into your system, those client leads? If you don't do phone intakes, maybe there's a way that you can say, hey, we'll get back to you right away. So for example, someone who does this really well is the plumber in our town that I call occasionally. He has a retired and somewhat disabled fireman, and he just gave him a cell phone. He's like, "Hey, I know you need a job." Um, and so he just gave him a cell phone, and he doesn't answer all the time right away, but it's just answering. And he takes some simple information and he connects me to the plumber. He doesn't answer right away. He'll call back really fast and collect that information. So he's got a really good system now for phone call. That's the primary call to action. You call him first. It's not a form fill or anything like that. So if you have a phone system, if you want people to make a phone call, make sure you have somebody answering right away or soon after. The other one is a form. So, what information are you collecting to qualify that client lead for your practice? So on that form, are you asking, are you looking for individual or couples counseling? What type of symptoms? If there's anxiety systems, I'll get a little bit more of this later, but how are you directing them to take action on your website? And this is usually the two ways to do it. So don't say contact us, say call us or call to schedule, something like that. Number three is, where's this information stored? Oh, yeah, you're welcome, Joshua. Glad I answered your question. Where is this information stored? All right. So, like I said at the beginning, like paper and pencil, right? And that's okay. Some people still do that. Post-it notes. I'm a post-it note guy. Is this information being stored on Gmail? Is it being stored on a Google sheet like this? Some people might recognize this one. This is a free resource that you can get from me, which I'll share a link to later. But is this on a Google sheet, right? Are you putting this information in a database that's easily accessible for you and your team? Or is it something in a CRM like this where you can easily see where everyone's at and the stages of becoming a client? Is it easily organized? Is the data all in one place? So the question is like, where is the information being stored for you and your practice? Do you have transparency into it? Is like another one. Like a lot of practice owners don't have transparency into the intake process if they have other people on the team because it's siloed. Like it's like in a separate Gmail account or it's on phone calls that may not be recorded. I don't know. But do you have access to it? But where is the information being stored? All right. So that's really part one, right? How to capture client leads. Do you have a clear call to action on your website? What is that action are they taking, right? Is that a phone call? Is that a form fill? And where is that information being stored? All right. Type any questions if you have in there. I'm just going to keep going because I have a lot of information. I think I have like 70 slides or something to go through. So keep asking questions in the chat. Please, please, please. All right. How to qualify client leads. So what information do you need to know about your client lead to qualify them for your practice? What information do you need to know about them? And this is really important. So you'd either do this on the phone or you can do this on a form, but are are you in network with their insurance? What are those presenting symptoms? Is the age matter to you in qualifying that lead? Is it individual or couples? Do you work with borderline personality disorder? Like sometimes a lot of my clients are like, I do not work with that particular diagnoses. So, Sandra, yes, it is being recorded. And you will get recordings of those who registered will get a recording of this right away. And then I will clean it up for YouTube. All right. So qualifying clients, very important. Have you instructed your intake coordinator on the different clients on the different clients that you're willing to see? What about for your team? I have a Notion database. You could do this in a Google Doc. Do you have something written down for your intake coordinator to be able to resource herself with or himself with on the different ideal clients of those on your team, so she's not matching them up with people that aren't good fits? What are your boundaries and what are your hard no's? It's like Gandalf, right? In Lord of the Rings, you shall not pass, right? Does your intake coordinator know these things for you and your team? So, for example, a simple way to maybe qualify is using a contact form on your website. This is a simple, very, very simple contact form. I probably wouldn't say, subject. You'd want to say, man, I don't know, you'd want to have something else. But your message could be like, what are you struggling with today? Or why are you reaching out to us? So this is a simple contact form. A lot of websites, therapy websites have this, but it's a little vague. So what I like to do is, yes, your name, phone number, email address, very important. A lot of times people put in the wrong phone number. So you want at least a decent email address and you can call them back right away. Because a lot of times if you get them on the phone, you can close them a little quicker. But there's another way that you could get more detailed information. So TheraSaaS has forms, and you can do this with any form builder. But I like to ask very specific questions like, um, how would you like to receive your services? What's the best way to contact you? Maybe you need to grab some insurance information because your biller is going to need access to that. Are you seeking services? Mark the ones that you're seeking services for. I think you could even ask, you could have a drop down if you have a group practice. You could say, which clinician are you interested in working with? Because people shop, I say this all the time, people shop for their therapists like they do Amazon products. So if you have a good clinician page, they will be able to look at that clinician and start to build a trusted relationship with them just by reading or watching videos, reading their blogs. Excuse me. And so you want them to be able to self-select, and that makes your intake coordinator's job a little bit easier. Or maybe you need to collect spousal information if it's couples counseling. I think it's really important to have on your sheet, right at the very bottom or somewhere, how did you hear about us? Because you want to be able to learn about those referral sources. Who are those people referring to you? Even if the client lead doesn't become a client, you can at least find out who referred to you, and you can start building those relationships as well. Maybe is what time do you prefer counseling? Maybe it's after school, getting some whatever it makes your intake coordinator or your job a little bit easier in qualifying that client and how to best help them. I think it's important to grab that information. Now, there's a whole nother conversation on HIPAA compliance and forms. TheraSaaS is HIPAA compliant. Not all forms are, so you want to be careful about the information you're collecting and where it's being stored. But I think you can see the power of forms here, especially if you are a high, what do I see? If you have a lot of client leads coming to your practice, 10, 20 a week, 50 a month, 60 a month, um, I think having a form is a really good way to assist your intake team. All right. So, how to qualify client leads. All right. So, here's a little mini training on the phone side of things. And this is good. This is really kind of the first part of this free resource I have, how to turn calls into clients. So stage one is really initial contact and information gathering. So a lot of things that I've shared with you on the forms, if you're going to do it on the phone, I suggest you do something like this. You provide a simple plan. So you can say something like this. Uh, hey, thanks so much. This is going to be a 15-minute call to see if we're a good fit to work together, or this is a 15-minute call to see if we're a good fit, or this practice is a good fit for you and what you're looking for. And by the end of the call, we'll determine together if we're a good fit or not. Either way, I want to get you the help that you're looking to receive. Does that sound okay to you? Right. So you begin with that little plan because a lot of times people don't know how this works. So just take the lead. Take the lead. They're looking for a guide to help them, and you're just going to provide them with a little plan. And then you can say something like this. Okay, great. So at the first part, I'm going to ask you a couple questions first and tell you a little information about our practice. And then I want to hear about why you're interested in counseling with us today. And then we can make a decision if we're a good fit moving forward. All right. Does that sound good to you? They say yes. Okay. Now you've set the expectation. You've limited the amount of time that you're going to be talking to them. You could even say maybe 10 minutes if you want, but you need to give them a simple plan, what to expect. Make the unknown known. And then you want to gather some information. So I suggest you ask a couple of these questions. The first one is, so before you jump into hearing their story, you want to be like, so how'd you hear about us? I think that's so critical to get that information up front, because even if they don't become a client, you know how they heard about you. And that's important data for your marketing, for you to get back to the practice owner or your marketing team. I think you could also ask this question. So what stood out to you on the website that made you want to work with us? So this allows you to know the why they chose you to help, so that you can help actually better understand their struggles. I think it's a really good question. The other one is, what are you looking? So this is when you can turn it over to them. The question you can ask. So what are you looking to get out of therapy? And this question, I think, gives you clarity around the problem that they're having. You could also frame it like, for the next 3 minutes, I'd love to hear, or 4 minutes or 5 minutes. Like, I love to know um, what you're looking to get out of therapy. Now you could, and then you can ask this question, or you can reverse it, this here. So the next question is, are you new to therapy? So asking the question, are you new to therapy? It just allows you to gauge what their experience around therapy is. And this might be an opportunity for you to provide a little bit of education of what therapy is and how therapy works and that type of thing. And then that allows you to move into step 3. So you gathered some information, and then you're going to what I call establish your guideness. So this is definitely from StoryBrand. People are coming to you. They're looking for a guide to help them solve their problem, right? They are on a journey of transformation, and intake coordinators, whoever's on the phone, you are just one of those guides. And it's important for you to establish your guideness. So, in stories, heroes can't solve the problems by themselves. So that's where you need to fulfill the role as the Yoda or the Dumbledore, right? You're there to help your client win the day. Um, and the way that you establish your guideness is really 2 ways: is empathy and authority. That's how guides are created in storytelling. They show empathy towards the hero. I'm so sorry that you are in this difficult position, right? And they show authority is that basically they're saying, I've gone this way before. I know how to help you, right? Okay, so After you've heard the client's struggle, right, why they are reaching out for therapy, now's the time to reflect back to them that you heard them, right? We talk about these empathetic statements. That sounds painful, not being able to trust your spouse, something like that. And then you want to establish your authority. And if it's true, right, you can say something like, I specialize in helping couples in similar situations recover from infidelity and being able to rebuild trust in the relationship. Or you can use the we, right? If you're a group practice, we specialize in helping kids who are really struggling with anxiety that's affecting their schoolwork, their ability to make friends, and even just get along, get along at home with their siblings. So what you want to do is like, okay, we actually have a team in place. We have people that can help you. And I'm gonna get to another part in the closing, like how to close the client, how to close the conversation in just a minute. Okay, so the next thing in the step is really you need to discuss fees at some level. So you could ask something like, "Are you familiar with our self-pay fees or how payment for services work?" This is really important for private pay practices. I've even seen intake coordinators kind of put this right at the top. So before you even spend a ton of time, you can say, "Are you aware of our fee structure? We're a fee for service clinic. So you pay for your services up front, and then you can seek potential reimbursement from your insurance companies if that's something you want to do. But that's on your own. We'll show you how to do it. But we are a private pay, something like that. And sometimes that's a deal breaker, right? So you don't want to spend a ton of time on the phone if it's not a good fit because of that. And hopefully your website's helping doing some education as well as relates to fees. But you don't want the money talk to kind of become a thing. You don't want this to be a surprise for them, especially after they have their first session. You don't want the money thing to be a surprise. If you're insurance based, you can go ahead and walk them briefly how insurance works and those next steps if they want to get the insurance verified and things with their practice. So, anyways, that's really the step 4 in that. Or sorry, step 4 is to discuss the fees. Sorry, let me update my slide for you too. All right. So my tip here is don't be rigid about these steps. I think you provide a plan. You can kind of move questions around or ask even better questions than what I've um, given you, but at least gives you a start. But don't be rigid about it. Part of it's like you got to improvise a little bit too, and that's totally fine. Stages 2 and 3 in the whole intakes uh, formula, whatever I have here, system is in this. I also give away, I think, an intake coordinator handbook in this email education series that I provide. So I'll give you the link to that in a minute. Okay, any questions? I'm going to take some water. I'd love to hear some questions. I've been talking for a little bit. Let me know. Yeah, here we go. Question time. Maybe I should play some music in the background. Elevator music. All right, seeing none that are coming through. Let's keep going. All right. So just to remind us kind of where we're at. So we talked about how to capture clients. Oh, here we go. Hey, Kelly, what if you try to call and they don't call back? I agree that calls are best. Yeah. Well, with TheraSaaS, you can text message. So you could try that too. But sometimes people want email. So yeah, how you actually, I think you can try both. Usually there's intake coordinators, practice owners have like a policy in place where we're going to try to reach out 3 times. We're going to do a phone call. We're going to do a text message. We're going to email. Usually one of those emails or text messages like, hey, we haven't heard back from you in a week since you last reached out. We're going to assume that you found help elsewhere and we're going to take you off our list. If that's what you want, please let us know and try to get a response because you're just trying to have a conversation with them. So, you know, it just depends. You can try to reach out 5 times, 7 times, 3 times. But I think having different modes and being able to capture different ways to communicate with them, it could be important for that. Oh, okay, lots of questions coming in. Great. So, let me go back to this here. But sometimes, all right, Kathy says, should I be ready to lower my fees on potential client presents? Oh, that's a good question. No. I think you should know what you're worth and stick to it. Now, there might be an opportunity to do a sliding scale. So you could, have maybe one or two people in your caseload that's a sliding scale. But you just want to keep it straightforward for yourself is what fees are worth. And I know it's really hard because people are like, I need your help. You'd be perfect for me. Um, and I just can't afford you. In most cases, they can, right? It's just them being able to justify um, the value that they're going to be getting. So hopefully your website's communicating that value. But I would shy against just lowering your fees just for anyone who wants it. But also you need to pay the bills too. So eventually you maybe start lower if you want. That's the thing about private pay is you let the market tell you what you're worth there, not what you're worth, but the value. What's the webinar program you're using now? Joshua, I'm using StreamYard for my webinar. Heather asks, oh, I forgot I can actually highlight these. What is a decent time frame for people to get back when commuting via text or email? It just depends. Sometimes if they submit the request right away, then you can get back to them as soon as possible. They're most ready to schedule at that moment they raise their hand and say, I want some help. But you know what? We're busy. No, but like I say this all the time. Like my dentist reminds me like 10 times I have a dentist appointment. And I sometimes still forget about it. So I think you can try like the window of them scheduling with you decreases throughout the week. So, they're more likely to schedule with you on a Tuesday if they reached out for an appointment on Monday. So it just depends. So I say if somebody says I want help, they're giving you permission to pursue them. So that depends on how hard you want to pursue that lead or not. But I say go after it. What's your experience with automated emails back saying it was received and I'll get back to you soon? That's a great question, Kimberly. Yeah, I think that's really important. So in TheraSaaS, we have an automation. As soon as they submit a form, we send a text message and an email. It says, hey, thank you so much for submitting an appointment. Someone on our team is going to get back to you within 24 hours. And what that does is it lets them know that, hey, we see you. We got your form. We got you. We're gonna get back to you. Now it's up to you to deliver on that promise of 24 hours. But to me, it like if you think about it for yourself, like mentally, right? If this happens all the time, people will call practices and leave message and then never hear back, or they'll send out a form and they'll never get an email back. So I think it's great to have automations to send it out, and I think that also prevents them from like looking around for other help because it's you got a message right away that says, "Hey, we got you. We're going to be reaching out to you soon." Even my eye doctor did that. I thought it was great. Hopefully that answers your question, Kimberly. Next one is Sandra. Should fees be on the website? If you're private pay apps, I think absolutely yes. I think having you might have to talk about fees on a call, but I like being very transparent with the fees. That way you just don't have to deal with it. I think your website should be qualifying uh, client leads as best as possible, so you don't have to spend as much time on the other end. Okay, so here's another short story. I had a doctor's appointment the other day, and it's a doctor's appointment I never made before. And so they sent me a lot of info. They sent me YouTube videos on explaining the process and what to expect. And when I got on the consultation call with the doctor, he asked me, "Do you have any questions?" And I said, "No," because his YouTube videos, his website explained everything. So, and all those YouTube videos and that I was reading, it built trust. Like I was like, I trusted him. And he also answered all my questions. I had nothing. So it was the quickest consultation. It was awesome. So I think you should have your fees on it. Be very transparent. All right, let's keep going. The good questions, keep them coming. All right. So we talked about how to capture client leads, how to qualify client leads. And now let's talk about closing the client lead. This is the scariest for therapists and for practice owners and even intake coordinators. There's a quote out there, or maybe it's a saying in life, is that you don't get what you don't ask for. And if you don't ask for them to schedule a counseling appointment at the end of this call or somewhere in your call to action, uh, they are not going to schedule an appointment. If you don't ask, they're not going to do that. We assume client leads, prospective clients, like we assume they know how to start the counseling process, but they don't. They don't know your process. So you have to tell them like what's going to happen. So at the end of that phone call, you're like, "Hey, I think we are a good fit." And I'll get to that script in just a second. You have to call in the action. So what is that? What is that next step they need to take to become a paying client? All right, so let's call in the action. Heather, I will answer that question in just a second, and I will get this bigger here. So you could ask, let's see here, see if this is an actual ask. So let me look at my notes here real quick. That started. Okay. So you could say something like, I have two fantastic therapists that would be a great fit for you. Would you like to get uh, something on the calendar with Allison or with Frank, something like that, right? So you could also say the intake owner is like, as you were telling your story, I immediately thought of two therapists that would be a fantastic fit. One of them is Allison. She has an appointment available at 3 p.m. Would you be interested? Would you like to schedule an appointment? I think you'd be a great fit for her. Right. And so you're moving that conversation along. You could also ask something like this. I think you're a really great fit after hearing your story. I think you're a great fit for us. Do you have any concerns about scheduling an appointment today with me or scheduling an appointment with me today if you're a solo practice, right? You see how you're calling them to action in the form of a question, but you're working together, right? You're going back to that promise. We're going to work on that. We're going to figure it out together. Or you could say, no, you know what? We are not a good fit, but I have somebody in mind that I'm going to send you information on, and I want you to go check them out, or I want you to go check out this website, right? And the nice thing about this is that this is selling, but it's not salesy, right? You're only guiding them to make a decision that's best for them. All right. So before we get to more questions, just a reminder, you set the stage by providing a plan on how the call will go. You're going to gather that additional information or needed information to qualify the client, establish yourself as a trusted guide, and then discuss any fees or insurance concerns, and then call them to action, right? So that's just by way of review. And I'm going to leave this up while I answer a couple questions here that came through the chat. So the reflection, use this moment or two here for some reflection. Do you need to update anything on your capture stage? You could put it in the chat. What are these things you might need to be updating? Do you need to update anything in the qualify stage or the closing stage? So put some things in the chat. I love to hear from you before we move on to the next little section of our webinar. All right. So Heather asked, if a client is on the wait list and you reach out to offer a spot and they do not respond back, what is a decent time frame to give them before moving on to the next person? I love this question. And I laugh because I know intake coordinators, a couple that will be like, especially if they have a long wait list, they'll reach out with an email and a text, say, hey, I have a spot available. I can't hold it for you, I can't hold it for the week, but I can hold it for the next 24 hours, or I can hold it for you the next 48 hours. Um, Let me know if you're still interested and we'll get you signed up. Now, what I like about that is it provides some urgency on that other person to respond. Um, and it helps your intake coordinator along because other people need help. And if they found out other help somewhere else, that's fine. But I think you can do that if that sounds good. 24 to 48 hours. It's up to you. But I think having some urgency is helpful. Again, it's going back to the salesy thing a little bit. It's not a bad thing, but we tend to be more focused when there's a deadline. Kathy writes, I'm the only therapist. I'm just starting out. Any wisdom about that process? Mm, Are you going back to your fees? There's a lot to process if you're just starting out. So if you can be more specific, Kathy, on that question, I'm happy to be more specific in my answer. All right. So anyone else, what are you going to be updating? I love to hear that. What are you updating? The capture stage, qualify stage, closing stage? So put that in because I want to move on to my next slide, which is because you waited. Um, how to convert calls into clients in just 7 days. You can just search TheraSaaS intake course if you want. Uh, and it should look like, let's see, TheraSaaS intake course. I know you're probably not seeing this, but I'll put that in the chat as well. But if you search TheraSaaS intake course, um, that will show up, and I'll put the link in the chat for you all as well. Let's see here, Kelly. I think I'm going to create a document for my team with specific plan for intake process. Yes. Yes. Make the unknown known for your intake team. I think that's really important. You could do create like a checklist, like a simple 1-page checklist, or half-page checklist. You could print it out, and then as they go along the call, they can just check off. All right, got this, got this, got this. Yes, make it as easy as possible. All right, so you can take a picture of that if you want with your phone. This is all the 17 plus resources, including links to what I just showed you, and the what do I call it? It's like the client lead Google sheet that you can use to um, put down the information. Yes, Kelly, or a flow chart. Absolutely. Maybe I should create a flow chart and give it away for free too. Um, you could also go to the brandyourpractice.com sales funnel. So I'll add that to the link as well. Should have had these funnel resources. There we go. I'll add that to the link. All right, so let's keep going. I need to update the website. And so Joshua, yep, I need to update the website. And that's a cliffhanger. All right. And also, I would love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's growing. I got over 500 subscribers now, but I'm putting a lot of these trainings up there. So I'd love for you to check that out. Okay. Let's keep going here. So, for example, I want to show just a minute or two of TheraSaaS because, like I said, it solved a major problem for my wife's practice, and also after dozens of practices now who have bought it. So it's really a piece of software that you use on the back end. So every practice probably has an EHR like Simple Practice or Jane or Therapy Notes, right? That's for your operations. You probably use QuickBooks or something like that for your finances. That's software to support your financial systems that you have. And then when it comes to sales and marketing, TheraSaaS really kind of fits that. That's the software, the backbone to help you with your sales and marketing. And what it does is it really, oh yeah, sorry, Sandra, thank you. You're reframing everything. I love that. Yeah, you're welcome. So the power of TheraSaaS is all starts with a form you put on your website, so you can ask all the questions you need to qualify a client. Right. So you just gather all that information up front. And then what happens, we have an automation that puts them in the visual pipeline. So you can see each stage. So new client lead, client contacted, needs follow-up, verify insurance. Like you can have as many stages as you want, but it puts them in a pipeline so you can see where they're all at any stage of becoming a paying client. And the information's all right there. And then what I also love about TheraSaaS, it has a unified inbox. So um, you got your email, your text messages, your phone calls, your voicemails, and this is all just for new clients. These are all just for new client leads coming in, sorry, prospective clients. As you're qualifying, you're having those conversations, it's all in one place. In case your intake coordinator goes on vacation or they quit, that happens too, and you're not left in the lurch. Like, where are we at? There's tons of transparency in the system, so you can see where you left the conversation off, and you can jump in. Or if you have like a massive intake team or a couple intake coordinators that work part-time, they can jump in and out and easily pick up where you left off. And then we also have a really great dashboard. So you can see how many clients came in, how many were won, they're now paying clients and they're in your EHR, or or you've lost them, or they're still open, or some of them that have been abandoned. And then you can see what your conversion rate over here, which is a nice little data point to see how your sales, your intake team is doing. And really, the benefits of TheraSaaS is there's full transparency. You get real-time analytics, and practice owners can sleep better at night. They really do. So that's a little bit about TheraSaaS. It's an intake CRM. It's HIPAA compliant, and we help you through the whole onboarding process. Get your team set up, and then if you want, you can go ahead and use that code 40% off. Just do webinar 40. You can check out, or you can schedule a demo at TheraSaaS.com, or you could just check it out if you're like, I'm convinced, Brent, I just want to buy it right now. But I encourage you to do a demo, see if it's a good fit. But I'll put the checkout in the links right there. Okay, so let's get back to some questions and some comments. All right, I'm reframing everything. Joshua, right there. Great question. What's the difference between that and Go High Level? It's actually built on Go High Level. It's built on that platform. Yeah, so great question. Does TheraSaaS track length of treatment? E.g., did the client stick after the intake? I'm not sure what EG is, but you can set it up to track it that way. So after they schedule it in your EHR, you can have a little stage in that pipeline that says follow up, or however you want to see it, and see if they've actually stuck. So, EG, for example, sorry. I've just never seen it capitalized. The EG. All right. Yeah, but you can set up. I've had TheraSaaS clients set that up where even though they've scheduled it, there's another stage in that pipeline that's like a follow-up process to see if they've stayed after 3 sessions or 4 sessions. You can customize it however you want and track it. Yeah, what else? Any other questions? I'd love to hear some feedback on anything that you're gonna plan to update. I'll go ahead and do this here. Was the training helpful? I think I've come around to, education. I think it's important for practice owners to solidify the process and say, here, this is how I want my team to do this, right? And some of this takes trial and error as well. But I think if you get your system down from your website, so what's that call to action? What is that one action you want them to take? How you're going to collect that information, qualify it, where's that information going to live? And so I think that a flow chart, like I think what Kelly said was a flow chart, would be a good example. I think providing scripts could be really helpful. I think having a sheet of all the people on your team and their clinical specialties will be really important in scheduling them, and having a system to organize all of it is really important. Sandra, you asked, does TheraSaaS segment for different offerings? Yeah, you can segment people using, oh, good. Thanks, Joshua. Yeah, I think, you can segment using tags. You can tag contacts to segment them. So sometimes there's testing, sometimes there's psychiatry. You can have a different pipeline that's just for testing, or a pipeline for intensives, or a pipeline for groups. There's lots of different ways you can organize the data inside TheraSaaS. It's just a big database that helps you visualize the information and keeps it really clear. What type of marketing do you find most effective? Tamara, Google or referrals? Oh man, I was just having a conversation with one of my clients on this. So I would say, you need both, Google and referrals. But there's been a huge shift in SEO and way Google's been doing stuff in the last 6 months with generative. Thank you, Sandra. With generative AI, and what's happened, and the way they how they choose what websites to show. So, you have Psychology Today, their directory. You have Simple Practice that are doing content and ads. You have, let's see here, Better Health, Alma, all these other really big players. They're doing their own SEO work. They're trying to capture clients and get leads for for their, people who subscribe to their directories and things like that. They're putting tons of money. Better Health, yeah, they're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars a month on advertising. So what that's doing is on Google search results with the generative AI, and then you have like Google My Business or organic search. It's just pushing everything down on the page. And we know you know how we shop on Google and how we use it. Like we're not scrolling much, and so Google is important, but it's not as important or it's not as effective as it used to be. I think Google business profiles are important for local. I'm like, now we have to actually think about building a brand and building those referral sources. So, and that is way harder. It's more rewarding. It's more long term, right? The results of building a strong brand, right? Think of Tesla, think of Apple. Um, it's a lot harder in the beginning, but it has really great results in the end. But it takes a ton of work. You do need both, but I'm seeing you need to wait more on those referrals. Word of mouth is more important these days, and that's only within the last 6 months to a year. Because I used to be able to just be like, all right, we're going to launch your practice. Let's get it going. And we're going to get on Google and we rank you on Google and all that stuff. But now it's a lot harder. There's way more competition. All right. I won't belabor that anymore, but it's a great question. Oh, thank you, Kelly. I'm glad you're learning something useful and immediately applicable. That's wonderful. Thank you. That's what I want to hear. That's part of what I'm trying to do is build a brand. My own brand is on that educational side. Like I want to give you guys all the stuff you need to be successful in your private practice. Because again, my mission is to help launch, grow, and scale 10,000 private practices. Either you're doing it through watching these webinars. That's all part of it. That's what I'm hoping to do. Because people need your services now more than ever. They need mental health support. You guys all know the world we live in. Woo, happy client seems to be the best referral. Thank you. Yep. Here's the other thing about referrals, though, is sometimes people refer to you the clients that they don't want, like the borderline and some other ones, like really difficult cases. So it's like a blessing and a curse as well. Is Facebook, let's see here, Sandra, is Facebook and writing then more useful? I think writing is, yes, I think all of it together is helpful. So I think you need to think of your practice, yourself, your brand, your own personal brand. I'm going to be doing a big webinar on this because I'm spending a lot of time thinking about personal branding and branding in general and why that's so important now. And writing's a part of that, creating content. Like what I'm doing here with you all, like I'm building trust with you. I may not know who you are, all of you, but I'm building trust with you. So doing webinars, writing, doing videos, and then you can post those on Facebook. I would say post it on your personal page. Facebook is pay to play. So if you have a business profile, you're going to be paying to send out that information. People don't go to Facebook for therapy help. They don't look, it's a different type of therapy maybe when they go to Facebook. But yeah, you can post on Facebook, post on LinkedIn, post it everywhere. If you have a piece of content, post it everywhere. Post it everywhere. TheraSaaS actually has a social planner calendar that you can post through it. It works pretty good. All right. We are about at time. So all very good questions. Really grateful thank you for spending this hour with me. And yeah, we'll see you in the next webinar. The next webinar is going to be a pre-recorded webinar because we're going to be on vacation. I think it's going to be a pre-recorded webinar. I try to do it every month, second Thursday of every month. So make sure you're on my email list, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you'll be notified on the next one. All right. So thank you so much, and we'll see you around. See you in the next webinar. Thanks.